Alright, so today we are testing the RX 7800 XT in the controversial Palworld. And I only say controversial because if you go on Twitter or X, that's the only thing you'll see regarding this game. Anyway, we're not here to discuss that, we're just here to test performance. Today we're pairing the CPU with a 12700K CPU. That again is paired with 32 gigabytes of DDR4 4000 CL18 memory. I'll put up all the specs on the screen right now if I can remember. We'll be testing at 1080p, 1440p and 4K. Right now we're at 1080p on the Epic preset. Let me just show you. I do change one thing. So if we go to graphics here, I select the Epic preset, this one, but then I just select TAA instead of TSR. So TAA is temporal anti-aliasing and TSR is TAA's super resolution, but there's no way you can actually adjust the resolution scale for some reason. I've got no idea how it's supposed to work. This game unfortunately only supports DLSS. There's no XeSS or FSR, which is kind of disappointing, especially considering it's 2024. If you've got one upscaler, you should definitely have more than one upscaler. Anyway, so FSR is not available, unfortunately, for the Radeon GPUs. Let's just see how this goes. Spoiler alert, I tested it a little bit earlier. The game does have some stuttering issues on this GPU. I'm not entirely sure why. I tested it at some multiple resolutions previously, and I did not see the same stuttering issues on the 4070 and the 4070 Ti, although I did test on Friday night with the 4070 and 4070 Ti. So I'm not sure if there was an update or something changed. It's just kind of stuttering at the moment. Anyway, I'm not going to be testing too long. My videos do get pretty long sometimes. So I'm just going to run around here and see what the performance is like. Just one thing, you see there was a pretty big stutter there. So just one thing that you need to note is that this game does cap out at 120 frames per second, even if you do disable VSync and a frame rate limiter. So you need to toggle VSync, apply that, and then disable it for that frame rate limit to disappear for some weird reason. Anyway, so you can see our 0.1% lows are pretty low, like a 9 frames per second for the 0.1% lows, and we haven't done anything yet. We haven't fought anything. There's my small little house slash base up there. But this game is quite fun. I do enjoy it. I haven't played that much, probably around 10 hours or so, but so far I'm enjoying it quite a lot. All right, so that's it at the Ultra preset or the Epic preset. I'm just going to lower it down one preset at 1080p, and then we'll move over to 1440p. Right, so we use the high preset now, and then just once again use TAA because, as I said, for some reason I can't select the TSR resolution. Yeah. All right, and let's just reset our numbers. I wasn't actually paying attention to the average FPS there. Not entirely sure what it was, but we are fully GPU bound. You can see we are sitting at 100% GPU usage, even at 1080p on the high preset, which is exactly what you want. Obviously, you want your GPU to be fully utilized. Now, this is an Unreal Engine 5 title, and suddenly we had two major spikes there. So I wasn't entirely sure why people complained about the performance in this game, or what I saw on Twitter anyway, or X, whatever you want to call it, until I played it with this GPU, and the performance was pretty bad. And this is the latest driver, the January driver, so not entirely sure what's causing all these stutters. But I'll test again with the 4070 and the 4070 Ti to see if the stutters persist there now as well. All right, so just as I said, a small benchmark running around a little bit to see what kind of performance we're getting here. And we had an average of 116 frames per second, but more importantly, our 0.1% lows are sitting at 9. Not great at all. All right, so let's move over to 1440p. All right, we're now at 1440p on the Epic preset. Another annoying thing about this settings is that you can't change your resolution while in game. Okay, so this is a 4K monitor. Desktop resolution is taken, so you have to quit the game, change your desktop resolution, and then that resolution will be applied in game. Sure, you can run in windowed mode, but then it will have a small screen. Anyway, so once again on the Epic preset, just selecting TAA, and it does say that it needs to restart to apply changes, whatever. So let's just start our frame rate counter here. Now the game looks pretty crisp at 1440p, much better than at 1080p, I must say. And this is on a 27-inch monitor, so I mean that'll make sense because the pixel density is much higher. And it's not a terrible experience. This apart from the stutters, the frame rate is staying like above 60 frames per second at all times, right? So I'm just collecting stuff here because that's just the habit. Anyway, so running around here, getting around 70 frames per second, but now it seems like the stuttering has gone away for some reason, or somewhat at least. We'll just run around a little bit more, see if the stutters persist. But you can see here we're getting a decent average. Obviously, it's not a high refresh rate experience here. And but if you want 60 frames per second at 1440p with the Ultra or Epic preset, definitely able to do it. I do think some resolution scaling would help quite a lot here. Not entirely sure what kind of Unreal Engine 5 tech this game does utilize. I'm pretty sure there's no nanite, and I'm pretty sure there's no lumen, but correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I'm wrong more often than not, believe it or not. But I do think this game will benefit quite a lot with the FSR, especially on the Radeon GPUs, right? Especially seeing that you can't, or I can't, find a way to change the resolution scale if TSR is enabled. Anyway, so 80 frames per second average here, 1% lows it's sitting at 64, and our 0.1% lows are sitting at 49, which is much, much better than the 9 we saw previously. All right, so I'm just going to drop it down to high and see what the performance is like. If I'm satisfied with the high refresh rate experience, then we'll move on to 4K. All right, so on the high preset, so only texture detail or texture quality changes here, which is pretty strange. This should only affect VRAM. So I don't think we'll gain any performance actually from going to the high preset. We were sitting at around 80. Okay, we're still sitting at around 80. So maybe my previous 1080p high settings is invalid. Anyway, so let's do this then. We'll have to drop this down to medium, then maybe we'll see a difference there. Sure, now everything changes to high. All right, good, and that's what we want. So let's see if we... Okay, so we gained around 15 frames per second here. Let me just... now it went up quite a bit. Took a little bit of time there. But all right, now we're getting a high refresh rate experience here. Probably not all of the time. We'll probably drop below 100 like there, especially if there's a lot of things happening on the screen, a lot of pals running around here. And I've seen during combat, it actually does affect the frame rate quite a bit, but not that much. So there's a big stutter. They're not sure if that was an autosave. This game does autosave, but the previous stutters that were so frequent, those definitely weren't due to autosaves. Are we stuck at 100? No, we're not. Just wanted to check if we're stuck at 120 frames per second, and my guy's hungry here. Like, this game is going to be divisive, right? It's not for everyone. If you do like Ark, Survuval Evolved, I think that's the full name. If you do like Ark, you'll probably like this. It's got a lot of the same crafting elements. The tech tree and UI have basically been copied from Ark. That's not an accusation. That's just how it is. If you go into the tech tree, you'll see exactly what I mean. It's exactly like Ark. And this is also being accused of being a Pokemon ripoff. Anyway, it doesn't really matter to me personally. I enjoy the game. It's quite fun. We'll see how this plays out. If there really is merit for some lawsuits, we'll probably see them happening. But I'm just an average gamer and doing some benchmarks here. So got a pretty decent average here at the medium preset, 110 frames per second. But once again, our 0.1% lows are sitting at 9. Well, there we go to 37. So it does average out. Remember this, it's time-based. So the more time you spend at a higher frame rate, the higher your chances are of it actually normalizing slightly until the next dip occurs. And then it'll take that into account into the time calculation and give you a number there. All right, so that's it for 1440p. Let's see how it goes at 4K. All right, so here we're at 4K on the Epic preset. Just once again, TAA instead of TSR. And oops, wrong button. Let's start our benchmark run. Yeah, wrong buttons again. Anyway, there we go. Now you can see the frame time graph is a little bit inconsistent there. It does smooth out eventually, but we're getting 40 frames per second here. Not ideal. And remember, this is on the Epic preset, so this is definitely not a 4K Epic GPU, like especially at native. So don't expect it to run quite well or that well. Unless you're aiming for 30 frames per second, which is fine. I mean, I know some people that do play at 30 frames per second, and I personally would like to play at 60 or above. This game is perfectly fine at 60 frames per second, just due to the type of game it is. I haven't actually unlocked any guns yet. Maybe that'll change slightly once we actually unlock guns. Maybe I'd want a higher frame rate then. But so far, just using primitive weapons and having these creatures fight for me, 60 frames per second is perfectly fine. All right, but that's just my preference. I mean, each to their own. All right, so the Epic preset is obviously not where we should be playing this with this GPU at 4K. So let's just drop this down to medium, because obviously high doesn't do anything. All right, so on the medium preset, just TAA. We'll test with TSR. Let's see if there's actually a difference there in performance. Maybe it does dynamic resolution scaling is using TSR. Not entirely sure. Are we limited? No, we're not. So just making sure we're not running with VSync enabled, and this is a much smoother experience. This is actually on a 4K 60 Hertz monitor that I'm recording, so doing 4K 60 natively, not terrible, especially at 60 frames per second. Now we can actually probably lock this to 60, and we'll get that most of the time, not all of the time, but we'll get, maybe we won't get clustered all the time. We're dropping into the mid 50s there. Not the end of the world, but if you are looking for a consistent 60 frames per second experience, then you are going to see some dips with this preset here. Obviously, you can fine tune some settings. I'm just here to test presets, and otherwise we'll be here the whole day. Standing on this ridge over here, on this path over here, we are getting into the 40s when we were looking that way. Like that's quite a big drop in performance, but one that can probably easily be rectified by just dropping the view distance. Anyway, so almost 60 frames per second. You're sitting at an average of 58, 1% laser sitting at 46, and our 0.1% laser sitting at 38. Still much better than at 1080p. Maybe we were more CPU bound at 1080p than we realized, or what MSI Afterburner showed, because I'm not seeing any of the stutters or as frequently as we did at 1080p. All right, so I'm just going to enable TSR. Let's see if it actually makes a difference here. So to do that, I'm just going to reselect the medium preset. We've got TSR here, and let's see if it makes a difference in performance. Remember, we got just around 60 frames per second here, so let's apply that. And not entirely sure if it made a difference, or if we are standing in the wrong spot here. It does seem to hold much closer to 60 now than previously. Let's see if it drops into the 40s here again. If I can remember where I was standing, we'll notice. So running back, I think we actually did score a little bit of performance here. As I said, sure, TSR is temporal super resolution, so it does employ upscaling. What kind of upscaling? I got no idea, because the menu does not show you that. Now, I just need to, there's a big stutter there. I just need to point out that this game is in early access, so a lot of these things will probably be fixed. It'll probably be, or FSR will probably be included, same with XCSS. I can't see why they won't be included. And maybe the full release, well, I think the full release is probably still a little while away, but there will be quite a few improvements, even in the early access version. Pretty sure about that, considering how well this game has sold. But this is actually not a terrible experience if you do have a 4K monitor paired with your RX 7800 XT. I think just the medium preset with TSR enabled will get you a pretty decent experience. Won't be locked 60, but it'll be close enough. Right, so let's just drop this down to the low preset and see what the highest frame rate is we can actually get using presets at 4K. All right, we're now on the very low preset, and it does disable anti-aliasing. So just to give you an idea, we do have FXAA, TAA, and TSR. And then obviously we've got DLSS there, which is not usable on Radeon GPUs. So let's just reselect the very low preset here, and let's see what happens. You can actually see quite a big difference in the texture detail on the ground here, but nothing too terrible. I mean, the art style of this game already hides quite a lot of its flaws. I mean, if you can call it that. The art style not trying to be photorealistic means that it can probably get away with lower settings on a lot of stuff, a lot of lower texture details, etc. But pop-in is definitely an issue here. You can see if we're running closer, like everything just pops in quite a lot more, like multiple times. So the LOD is not just a single setting. The further away you are, it changes there, and then it changes there again. It'll be annoying playing like this, I think. So maybe just increase the view detail or the view distance at least, or just play on the medium preset with TSR. And now the time of day is changing, so we are probably going to see some performance discrepancies here. It does seem to run slightly better at night than it does during the daytime, and I think that'll signal the end of this video. Right, it's just a very short video to share the performance of the RX 7800 XT in Palworld. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, we hope to see you in the next one.